It's not long now until Nvidia reports its first quarter results. Investors will be all ears to hear what the chipmaker will have to say on sales amid China hurdles and hyperscaler spending plans. Here with a closer look, Matt Bryson, Wedbush Securities Managing Director. Matt, it's good to see you. So as we look to Nvidia next week, obviously there has been a lot of chatter around, in particular, its sales into China of the H20 chips, the more advanced chips, which have now been blocked. Where is Nvidia going to need to sort of show growth here? What are investors going to be watching as we see that potential shortfall?
Yeah, so with the quarter they're reporting, those H20 sales actually were running ahead of plan until we saw the government block them, I believe. And added to that, Nvidia had some problems with Blackwell heading into the quarter. I think those really got smoothed out as the quarter progressed. And so my sense is with Q1, those better pieces, the better sales into China, at least initially, better shipments of Blackwell, that's really going to offset any loss of China sales in that last month. Where there's some impact is on the guide. So generally it's thought that the China piece is maybe 10% of the data center revenue. So let's call it 4 billion-ish. I think their consensus has started to take down estimates a little bit. But at the same time, with Blackwell getting better, with these new sovereign deals coming in, I think there's less concern moving forward than there was 2-3 weeks ago, because there's all these other new revenue sources that are popping up.
You know, to start the year, Matt, it was interesting. The stock was struggling. There's different reasons for that. One reason was DeepSeek, and Nvidia executives addressed that. In your opinion, did they address that concern to your satisfaction, Matt? Do you think that concern is in the rearview mirror?
I certainly think it's in the rearview mirror, Josh. So if you look at what actually happened with DeepSeek, so predominantly a China phenomenon, DeepSeek was driving significantly more demand than expected for AI servers in China. And so I think at the end of the day, what you saw from DeepSeek was it was good news for Nvidia. It was more demand. So I think that concern is certainly behind them.
Matt, one of the other reports related to Nvidia that we got today came courtesy of the Financial Times, which said Oracle was planning to spend about $40 billion on Nvidia's GB200 chips to power OpenAI's new data center. I don't know if this is a surprise, because if they were building the data center, it was likely they were going to get Nvidia's chips. But it does speak to the reliance of Nvidia on spending from the hyperscalers. So what can we expect in terms of cadence with that spending?
Yeah, so you saw earlier Crusoe also announce that they've secured funding to build out those facilities. So, and I think when you look at the news from the Financial Times, let's assume it's accurate, they're talking about GB200 chips. So the current generation of product, that tells you that's going to come earlier. Let's call it in the next 2, 3, 4 quarters. And so from a cadence perspective, Julie, I think if it doesn't show up in Q2 for Nvidia, it shows up in Q3, Q4, because when you get beyond Q4, you really start to see GB300, the next iteration of chip, becoming the larger portion of volume out of Nvidia.
Matt, another big question, of course, top mind for Nvidia investors was the AI boom and whether big tech would continue to invest so much in that boom. You heard those last earnings reports, Matt, from Meta and Microsoft and Alphabet, and when they talked about their CapEx guides, they remain confident. I'm just curious, when you look past 2025, Matt, you try to look in 2026, what do you see AI spending looking like from the hyperscalers?
Yeah, so it's hard to peg how much hyperscale growth there will be in 2026, and that's always kind of been the question, right? Can we continue to see the large clouds grow their spend like we've seen the last few years? The difference this time, I think, and I think your prior guest talked to this, we have all this incremental additional spend coming from these projects that are outside the hyperscalers. So in particular, the sovereign deals we've got, both Saudi Arabia and UAE, and remember that I believe it was a UAE number in terms of chips. That was larger than the amount of product that Oracle is supposedly buying. So these large deals are really additive, and I don't see the cloud stepping away. The last thing I'd add there is, so one of the concerns has simply been that applications aren't going to show up. I think when you see OpenAI go out and spend the significant amount of money they did on Johnny Ive's new startup, that tells you that there are edge products that are getting close to being ready. And I think those edge products are going to be AI driven. And again, at the end of the day, that ends up creating growth for AI silicon like Nvidia produces.
Everything comes up Nvidia, it seems, in that AI universe. Matt, thanks so much. I appreciate it and have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.